I own 16 rental units and I replaced $170,000 worth of pharmacist salary income. This is probably the fastest way for you to retire and replace potentially your $170,000 worth of income. And you can do so with just as little as $50,000 because these $200,000 homes, you can put 10% down on them. So vacation home loans will get you that option. Plus, they make pretty much about the same as my San Diego home or my Joshua Tree home in California. But you don't have to pay the $800,000 to $1 million purchase price. You can pay $200,000. All right, so we're going to first talk about how to use Raboo.com. This is pretty much an Airbnb income calculator, but it also has a secret tool called a market finder tool. So if you go to the website, click tool finder, go to the bottom and click market finder. If you just go here and then click the market finder option, it's going to actually rank a bunch of different cities for you to look at. And I would suggest you look at the cities where you can pretty much afford. For me, starting off, I wasn't super wealthy, especially for most people. I would say they don't have $300,000 saved up unless you're in business or you've just been saving for a very long time. But for me, when I started at around $50,000, so I'm going to talk about that. And one of the markets that actually attracted me was something called Oak Hill, West Virginia, or someplace called Oak Hill, West Virginia. And I ended up expanding around there. So now I have 3 personal properties. My company is actually acquiring some itself there. A lot of my students will actually buy properties here too. And some of my clients and friends and family are actually getting to the place. Mainly because it's still good right now. It's not too saturated. There's over 2 million visitors in this Oak Hill area or New River Gorge National Park area. And that is the big draw. And because it's a little bit newer, it's only been around since 2020. There's a good chance you're still just in the early stages. And I know because I have 3 properties here, and I know that those 3 properties have pretty much brought in $70,000 every single year or more. Some look a little bit better than the others. But yeah, so I'll use that market finder tool. I'll narrow down to something like Oak Hill, West Virginia. And then I'll go to Zillow. I'll go to Zillow.com and I'll click that burger sign, which is 3 lines, and I'll search for the best agent in the area. And then you click that and pick the highly rated agent and just tell them who you are. So hey, I'm Jeff. I'm a real estate investor and I want to buy these $200,000 homes. I want to use a vacation home loan and I want to rent them on Airbnb. Do you see any problems with that? I want to be making a little bit aggressive. I want to be a little bit aggressive on offers because I am an investor and I need to be doing this to make money, not to live here. So they got to be okay with that and they need to understand. And the next step is to actually ask for referrals from that agent. So if they say yes, you guys can start your house hunt. But then you want to get referrals. So a lending referral, who do they like to work with on the lending side? Who do they think could take care of a 10% vacation home loan? They hopefully know an escrow company or a title company or a lawyer company that's going to help you close the home. And it's a bonus if they know cleaners or handymen in the area, because when you go to these real estate areas, it gets a little bit hard to find those connections. And the last one is probably photographer, because when you do Airbnbs, you want professional photography. If you can't find a really good lender who is working with that agent, the next step is to probably go on the same tool, so Zillow, and go to loan options or something like that. Help me with the home loan. But you can just make a bunch of calls to agents, loan brokers around the area to see if they can help you with funding a property using a vacation home loan, again, for 10% down in the area you're looking for. And then the next step pretty much is close the home. So you've closed the home. Congratulations. What do you do next? The next step is to actually get your measurements for the house, work with a professional designer, or do a DIY route where you spend $20 on spoke.com, which is a design software. And it just lets you stage a home before you get there. And that's going to save you a lot of headache on the next step, which we're going to discuss in a little bit. Or if you have a really talented designer friend and they're still new to the business and they want to kind of try their hand at AirbNbs, you might be able to get away and say, or ask your friend and be like, hey, could you do it for $1,000 or $6,000 or maybe even for free if I'm willing to share this experience with you? And they might be all gung-ho for it. As long as you have someone who's dedicated to only doing design, and they have a really good eye, and maybe they have some experience, their house is just really well designed, that's probably going to be your best bet for working with a designer. The alternative, the very last most expensive one, which is also very good, which is hiring professional designers. It can cost from $10 to $30 per square foot, depending on their experience level and how much they actually handle for you. And I say it's even worth it because, say you get 1,500 square foot home and you're lucky enough to find a designer that will do for $10 per square foot or $15 or $20 per square foot, and it costs you maybe $20,000, $30,000. If you can get that $20,000 to $30,000 back sooner than later, and maybe you can put this on a 0% interest credit card, that could be a way to actually finance this purchase, or if like the design company is actually willing to finance that loan to you to make some sort of payment plan so you don't actually have to pay it all up front. It's going to be worth it because these Airbnbs on general make around like $6,000 net per month, depending on how good you are. Take that with a grain of salt. But it depends on how good your place actually looks. But on average, I'm shooting for around $7,000 to $12,000 to $15,000 gross. So usually I cut that in half, and that's usually about what I keep net. Sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes a little more, depending on like variable things. Obviously like lawn, what mortgage terms I get, what other utilities am I buying in bulk. So a lot of different variables, but in general, rule of thumb, 50 to 60% cut off from gross is what you're going to keep net, at least in my experience. So you have the place design. Say you go the DIY route, you do the spoke, $20 for design, someone who does it for you. Or maybe it's your professional friend who you spoke, and it looks great. Have them print out the mood boards, and now you're going to take it to the next step, which is setting it up. So you're going to have the designer curate everything and order everything to the house, and you're going to have maybe a friend or a handyman DIY, like a DIY friend or something, or maybe your real estate agent put the things into the house, or whoever's going to be working on your house put the furniture inside. And then there's two ways to approach this again. So if you get to the setup part now, you have someone who needs to have a picture of those mood boards, put them in every single room, like wherever they belong, and then just start unpacking. So all the packages are going to be in the house, and then put the packages that you unpack into wherever those pictures are. And that's going to save you a lot of time, because otherwise you're going to be ruffling through things. You're not going to know where things go. And that's honestly just half the battle. Once you have the correct items in the right room, you can follow the design boards and then just either unpack it yourself and set it up, or hire like a handyman or like a trusted friend for like $20-$25 an hour and just start putting together furniture. There's IKEA furniture has directions. Wayfair has directions on their products. So it's usually not rocket science, and most people can figure this part because the directions are usually pretty decent. You have it all set up. Now you're near the last part. You're going to have your cleaners come in, and this is where that one app I talked about called Turno comes into play. So you want to kind of onboard them on Turno, and it just provides a checklist for them. So they know like when they leave, they're going to take pictures of all these things, and here's the inventory list. Just follow this, set all that stuff up. And if you have questions about like what the inventory list is, ask it in the comments. Maybe I'll respond if I get time to, or ask a friend. But this is all pretty stuff you can create. You can even chat GPT, like, hey, what are some suggested Airbnb kitchen items that I need to continually order? Or what are some bathroom items I need to continually order, if that helps. And then the next step, your cleaner will do a deep clean, and then you schedule a photographer to come in, specifically a real estate photographer or a lifestyle photographer, which means they kind of like will take a picture of the house with an Airbnb flair to it. And those are a little bit harder to find and harder to pull off. If you can't do it, especially in rural locations, a real estate photographer usually is enough for the trick. Make sure the pictures look nice and bright. I usually ask for like 40 to 50 photos, and a drone photo is quite nice too. And I just kind of point out, hey, make sure you highlight the hot tub, sauna, whatever else you decide to include. Again, if you can fit some people in there, showing them use the place neatly and tastefully, it's going to be a plus. So now you get your photos. You're on the last step, which is the property management. And this part is really long, but I'm going to try to keep it short to like 30 seconds. You're going to use Hospital, which is basically a customer relationship manager. I think that's what they're called. CRMs, maybe. But Hospitable is the one I use. That's one I have experience with. I connect it to Turno, so my cleaners can see my calendar. After that, I connect it with my Schlage on code also, so people can go in and outside of the house without me having to be there, and it scrambles their lock code whenever they leave. We also have a Price Labs, but Airbnb, I believe, actually has now its own pricing software, so you don't have to buy Price Labs if you don't want to use it. And I think there's like some sort of rule now where if you use a secondary software platform like Hospital, they might even charge you more fees on the Airbnb side. So it actually might be a good idea to learn how to use the Airbnb built-in customer relationship manager. So keep that in mind. That's what I currently do. I've been doing it since 2021 now, so it's a little bit different. But you do all those things, you automate it, and other extra things for like security is like the Ring floodlight, so you can see who's going in and out of the house. You want to have like a secure closet so you can have supplies for your cleaners to come in. That is how I set up these $200,000 Airbnbs, which I put 10% down, so $20,000, and maybe furnished for like $30,000 to $50,000, depending on how crazy I get. And cool part is I actually furnished most of these things with 0% credit card, so most of it's not even on my, like, out of my pocket. So if you're lucky enough and you're creative enough, you've done real estate before, you understand private money lending, you understand how to use credit cards to your advantage, these houses will again generate sometimes $70,000 to $120,000 gross. And using that income, you could pay all those loans back.